Hey, good evening or good day wherever you are in the world, and welcome to our Trend Tour series. Tonight we're going to be talking about circular construction. Well, first, my name is Rachel Johnson. I'm a program manager at CIRCULAZE and very excited to be with you tonight. A little bit of background on CIRCULAZE. CIRCULAZE started in the summer of 2022 with the goal of connecting corporates and startups, creating awareness, and accelerating the path toward a circular economy. Oh, we couldn't do it alone. That's why our motto is "Can't do it alone." And we have the support of our amazing partners. And a little bit of exciting things coming up this year for us. In end of April, we have our first on tour at BMW. So we'll be looking at what happens to the car at the end of its life cycle. We're very excited for that. And also end of October this year, we'll have our big CIRCULAZE night and festival. So save the date. And actually beginning of November now, we had a date change, so save the date, beginning of November. And we're very excited, so stay tuned for more to come. And tonight we've invited startups here to share their solutions in the circular construction industry. We have Concular from Germany, CRIATERRA from Israel, Manager from the Netherlands, and you'll have the chance after their presentations to ask any questions you may have, so feel free to use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. Type in your questions anytime and we'll make sure to answer them. We've also invited an awesome keynote speaker for you tonight to give you a short introduction on the topic of circular construction. So with us tonight, we have Dr. Chris Richter, Senior Manager, Strategy and Digitalization at Drees Sommer. We're very excited to have him with us, and the stage is yours, Chris.
Hi. Hello, everyone. So I try to share my desk. I hope you see it.
All good.
All good. Sounds good to me. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure speaking to you on the topic of construction tonight. Thank you for inviting me and my company, Drees Sommer, to take part of this great event. First of all, I would like to introduce myself really quick. My name is Chris. I'm responsible for strategy and digital advisory at Drees. Before that, I worked 7 years in a strategy consultancy and founded my own prop tech. It is called Animus, a tenant experience platform, and I was the CEO for 8 years. I know 2 of the 3 prop techs which are presenting later, so it is a great chance to be here and give some input about the branch construction. Let's start, and to make it crystal clear, even early in the beginning, we are all in the same boat. Construction is an essential industry that plays a critical role in driving economic growth, creating jobs, and transforming our physical environment. It is responsible for building the infrastructure that enables our societies to function, from roads and bridges, airports, water treatment plants. It is also responsible for the construction of homes, offices, schools, hospitals, and other structures that form the backbone of our communities. Let's start with some important facts. The field of construction is second in the ranking of all branches. Only the retail makes more money. 2021, the branch made $7.3 billion. With an expected CAGR around 7%, the branch will double the revenues in 2030 with approximately $14 billion worldwide. That means 7% of the worldwide GDP is working in the field of construction, and also 7% of the working power. 166 million employees are working in this field. That's the size of Germany times 2. It is an industry that has the power to shape the world we live in and to leave a lasting legacy for generations to come. For example, the so-called line. Have you ever heard about it? Building the line, 500 meters high, 200 meters deep, 170 kilometers long, 9 million tenants, 100% renewable sources. Unbelievable. The 5-minute city in just one building. 9 million people are expected to live there in the future. That is the city of London in just one building. But on the other side of construction, also important information. Construction industry is responsible for more than 38% of global greenhouse gases. The field of construction has a huge environmental impact. Construction projects can have significant environmental impacts, such as the destruction of natural habitats, deforestation, air and water pollution, and the ending of natural resources. The biggest drivers of emissions in construction are the production of building materials and the energy using during the construction and operation of buildings. Here are some specific examples. Cement production. Cement production is a major contributor to emissions in the field. Steel production. Steel is another material commonly used in construction that has a high carbon footprint. Energy consumption. Buildings are responsible for around 40% of global energy consumption and around 1/3 of global greenhouse gas emissions. This includes the energy used for heating, cooling, lighting, and operating building systems such as elevators and ventilation systems. And waste management. Waste generated during construction and demolition can also contribute to emissions. More challenges are: 2050, we will have approximately 9.7 billion human beings. Now we have just 8 billion. Right now, we build cities the size of Paris in a week worldwide. Approximately 60 to 80% of the buildings we need in the future are not built yet. And even more challenges. From environmental concerns to workforce shortages to cost overruns and delays, there are many factors that can make construction projects complex and difficult to execute successfully. So how can we overcome these challenges and build a better future for the construction industry? I believe that the answer lies in collaboration, innovation, and a commitment to excellence. There's a toolbox for improvements: technologies, sustainability, construction, and first of all, innovation is essential. The construction industry is constantly improving with new technologies, materials, and methods emerging all the time. By supporting innovation, we can improve project outcomes, reduce costs, and minimize environmental impacts. This means staying up to date with the latest trends and technologies, investing in research and development, and being willing to take risks and try new things. I just wanted to give you some examples. Example number one would be digitalization. The construction industry has been slower than other industries to adopt new digital technologies, but there's a growing recognition of the benefits of digitalization. By leveraging tools such as building information modeling, BIM, drones, virtual reality, construction professionals can streamline workflows, reduce errors, and improve collaboration. Another option would be robotics and automation. Robotics and automation have the potential to disrupt the construction industry by increasing efficiency, improving safety, and reducing costs. This includes the use of intelligent construction equipment and robots that can perform easy tasks. Another chance would be prefabricated components. That means prefabricated concrete components can help reduce waste and improve construction efficiency. By producing concrete components offsite, the amount of waste generated on-site can be reduced and the speed of construction can be increased. Energy efficiency. Designing building with energy efficiency in mind can help reduce the carbon footprint of buildings. This can include using passive design techniques such as natural ventilation, daylighting, and insulation, as well as incorporating renewable energy systems such as solar panels. And back to the waste management, proper waste management practices can help reduce the amount of waste generating by construction operations. This can include implementing recycling and composting programs. But in the end, collaboration is key. The construction industry is a complex ecosystem of stakeholders, including clients, contractors, architects, engineers, and suppliers. By working together, we can achieve better outcomes for everyone involved in the project. This means engaging in open and honest communication, seeking out diverse perspectives, and finding ways to align our interests for the greater good. The commitment to excellence is paramount. The construction industry is built on a foundation of trust and quality. By delivering projects that meet or exceed expectation, we can build lasting relationships with our clients and stakeholders and earn a reputation for excellence in the industry. This means striving for improvement, maintaining high standards for quality and safety, and being accountable for our actions. In conclusion, the construction industry is an essential part of our economy and our society. By working together, embracing innovations, and committing to excellence, we can overcome the challenges we face and build a better future for ourselves and for generations to come. Thank you, and I'm really sorry about that.
No worries. It happens to the best of us sometimes. You never know what's going to happen, right? But thank you so much for the introduction. It was enlightening. I think there's lots of opportunities for improvement here. And as we'll see with our startups later on, lots of solutions that we can use right away that's already available. I guess before we move on to the startups, see if there's any questions for you first. No, but I had a question, I think kind of just in general, how Drees Sommer is already embracing the circular economy or circular construction. Are there any projects you have in motion already, or what? Yeah,
for sure. We work closely together with Madasta in several projects, we try to have the green spirit in mind. So last year we did more than 5,000 projects, and we try to adopt this spirit step by step. And it's really important for us. We try to be a thought leader in Germany in this branch. So we have to step up, and I'm pretty sure we find new partners to do so. And I'm happy to see 3 different startups today doing a great job. 2 of them I know a little bit, so I heard good stuff, and I'm really happy for them to get this wonderful option to talk to you.
Very exciting, and it seems like a small world at 2 of the startups already.
It's a small world, especially for prop techs. We have to support each other, and I was like CEO for one prop tech for 8 years. So I know this field a little bit. I heard so, yeah.
like our motto, we can't do it alone. So you're embracing that.
No, it's really important to work hand in hand. And it's only we can do it together. Otherwise, no chance, especially for the small startups.
So thank you so much for joining us tonight too. And looking forward to more to come from Drees Sommer and more collaborations and presenting some of our startups to the rest of the audience here.
Thank you very much for having me. Have a good time. Bye-bye.
And now up next, we have our startups. So our first startup joining us tonight is from Germany. Representing Concular is Dominik Campanella, co-founder and CEO. Concular is the digital ecosystem for circular construction, and they are an antiques dealer in the construction business known as Property Tech. So Concular's mission is to increase reused materials And through this, they have a solution, their resource passport, which supports developers and property owners by measuring and optimizing circularity, CO2 footprint, and material value. I'm very excited to hear more from Dominik himself on what Concular is doing. And yeah, Dominik, the stage is yours.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you a lot, Chris, and also Rachel for the introduction. I'm sharing my screen. 1 second. So can you actually see it?
Yeah, perfect. All good.
Yeah. So yeah, thanks a lot for the invitation. Yeah, I want to, or I'm one of the co-founders of Concular, and I want to give you a bit a glance what we from Concular are doing. And before I want to start with that, I actually want to show you also an introduction, as Chris already did, like a picture of the Earth. So one of the first pictures which was taken from our Earth here from the moon. And when this picture was published, society realized that like we are living in a very precious world, and quite interesting that this precious world and ecosystem we're living in, we are right now destroying. And unfortunately, we have to say that the construction sector is the major stakeholder in destroying our Earth. So giving you some numbers to that, like this, yes, we 90% of all resources we took out of our Earth went into buildings. 60% of all global waste and 40% of emissions are coming from the construction sector, and that's massive amounts. And with that, the construction sector is the largest polluter in the world. And when you really look into the numbers, what you realize is that actually half of the emissions are coming from the production of construction materials. So why is that so? And the reason for that is the so-called take, make, waste model. So we take resources out of our Earth, we produce materials, and then we put them into our buildings. And after sometimes just 5 to 10 years, we are taking them out and landfilling them. So 99% of all materials right now are either landfilled or incinerated or downcycled, and just 1% is really going into a loop again. So there's a huge opportunity to reduce emissions and waste by thinking more into loops instead of a take, make, waste linear model. So this issue leads to, of course, a lot of different things: material scarcity, climate change, and also high disposal costs. And this is why we from Concular believe that we have to think different about buildings. We have to think about buildings as an urban mine, as the source for new products and buildings. And we have to basically follow the principles of the circular economy. And these are the 5 R's of circular economy. So in the beginning, we have to see how we can use much less resources. So how do we reduce resources by, for example, not building new buildings, but trying to understand how can we use our existing buildings. Then if that is not possible, to reuse materials. So taking materials from one building into another building and without doing much on these materials. And if that is not possible, then refurbish or repair these materials, and just as a last resort, recycling materials. So very often the only solution showed is recycling, but recycling is actually the last of the 5 R's of the circular economy. And so we are striving like to do material loop with this hierarchy. So we had this idea already more than 11 years ago, or yeah, it's 10 years, or now it's 11 years actually, 2012. And there we decided to build a marketplace where you can buy and sell materials coming from deconstruction or leftovers on construction site. And we were able to build that as the largest marketplace for circular construction in Europe. However, what we realized then around more than 3 years ago is that with that we are able to reach private clients and very small companies, but the big impact of reducing CO2 is really in the big projects. But we also realized very fast that we are not able to cater just a marketplace to these large professional actors in the construction sector. They need more. They need a certain amount of qualities at a certain time, in a certain quality, with warranty and so on. And this is why we then took the next step and established Concular as in 2020, which we define as a digital ecosystem for circular construction. And with Concular, we are able to digitize new and existing buildings, the materials inside, and then also bring these materials back into the loop. And basically all this complete idea of Concular and what it offers today is based on more than 100 interviews we took back then to really understand what the pain points of project developers and building owners are in recirculating materials. And how it works, actually, first we digitize materials and buildings, that's that for existing and new buildings. For existing buildings, we develop the software basically on the phone with which you can go through a building, and then you can put all the materials, all the information about the materials into our software and create a digital material inventory, which with all information important to really have a reuse or recycling of these materials. We also work with, for example, 3D scans, where you are able to create so-called point clouds of the building, and then you are able to kind of understand what materials are already in the building. Of course, this technology is not replacing right now that someone is going through the building, but this is also has huge potential for the future, that automatically materials can be in an existing building can be identified and then put into the material base. For new buildings, it's a bit easier when planned, for example, with a BIM model. You're able to upload the BIM model on our platform and then create so-called lifecycle passports, where you then can do a lot of different analysis, such as how much embodied carbon is actually in my building, but how circular is actually my building. You can do also different scenario analysis, but you can also calculate the residual value of the building. So when you now consider that you documented materials, we gave them an identity, you're able to sell these materials at the end of the lifetime of the building. And so you don't pay for the landfilling of the materials, but you get money for that. So you make we make from a cost a value, and you can make or you can calculate how much that is, and of course can then also increase the complete building value with that. And so as said, like if you have all the information about materials in a building, you can do a lot of different things. You can do life cycle assessments, you can do the residual value and so on. And then when a building is getting deconstructed, you are able to recirculate the materials as we match, as we know now what supply of materials there will be. And on the other side, we know what is needed from like manufacturers, recycling companies, or building owners, and match these demand and supply, and then in the end also recirculate them back into new buildings. And with that, of course, closing the material loop. So far, we were able to execute more than 250 projects, especially in Germany, Austria, and Switzerland, with around 35 people in our team, and also started a so-called Concular Circularity Partner Program, where the idea is really to gather the largest companies from the area of like manufacturers, project developer, architecture office, and many more, that they are on the one side sharing best practices, and but also together that we are working on solutions which are really bringing circularity in the construction sector. And of course, like from our clients, we are working especially with large project developers and building owners, public and private. And also did bring some project examples that you really understand what we're doing. So for example, this building in Düsseldorf, which will be not demolished, but just the interior will be changed. And there we have, for example, lightnings from Zumtobel or Lindner, systemic walls, which will be completely put into new buildings as the manufacturers are taking the back, refurbishing them, and then we are selling them to new projects. Another project which we already finished is this football stadium in Stuttgart. So 10,000 square meters were digitized by our software, and then all the materials were put into new buildings. So let's say, for example, this windows, but also I think around 3,000 of these red chairs, which is also quite interesting, because I guess there's a lot of the Stuttgart fans now having these chairs at home. Another interesting project is this department store Karstadt am Hermannplatz, where we were able to digitize 40,000 square meters. This is how it looks now on the bottom left, and how it should look in the future on the top right. We were able to create this material inventory by digitizing that, and then they created a competition for architecture offices. So and the job was that these architecture offices had to try to rework or to rebuild that building based on the materials which were already in this building. So the competition was really focused on that, and this will be now done, I think, this year. And so here you can also see some of the materials, for example, the stone facade, for example, is very interesting and will be put into the new building, as well as a lot of other elements which were saved here. Here you can also see how, for example, windows are getting taken out of a project here in Berlin, and these windows, they were just put out and are put into a new building, as well as, for example, also this conference center from Siemens, where we did basically also sell all the materials which were then identified in a digitization, as well as, for example, also for like a big newspaper here in Germany, FAZ, where we also, I think, digitized more than 60,000 square meters, and there you have some interesting elements like this bridge, which is connecting both buildings, which is interesting, and where we also checked like how this bridge can be put into a new building, and with very interesting results. And as a last example I did bring with me is also in the interior. So there's, for example, one architecture office, Usman Interior, they're building interior offices only based on reused on reclaimed materials, and you can see how it looks like. And so everything on these pictures was already in another building, and it of course looks great and has a complete different language of architecture and design. And so what we always say, materials tell a story, and you can really see on this example that reusing or recycling materials can be really beautiful, and will be the new standard in our buildings. And with that, I hope I could give you some impressions, and let's work together, because together we are circular. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dominik. That was really interesting to see all the projects you've worked on already. And I think here in Munich, we heard about the Siemens project that you showed. Yeah, very clever idea to use all the resources you can. And yeah, I guess.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, one question I have for you is, how is Concular playing into all the new ESG compliance coming into place right now?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So basically, what we see right now, I mean, the focus of the politicians were a lot on energy efficiency, which of course is a very important topic. However, what we see that more and more the focus is also on like the embodied carbon, the 50% of the building which no one looked at right now. And so also ESG reporting, like the taxonomy for sustainable finance and so on, they're all including now criteria for that. And so it's very important. Basically, there's no way anymore that you can build a building without digitizing the materials. And so this is also the focus of Concular, to provide all the reportings which are needed to fulfill the requirements for ESG and so on. And of course, it's not the purpose to fulfill requirements, but when you have all the information, when you have data about the building, you can do a lot of different things. You can really look like, how can I make my building more sustainable? How can I make it more circular? So basically, we can fulfill all these ESG requirements or support on fulfilling them, but you can basically create a building with that, which hopefully is good for our environment.
Yeah, and like you said before, it tells a story too. I like that aspect of it. It's not just something new, it's got a story behind where the materials came from.
Exactly, and maybe on also we are sitting here in Berlin in the Impact Hub, which is basically in the Circular House, which is a building which was built with 80% of reclaimed construction materials. So everything in that building is either coming from sources which was already built in, but everything is put in a way that you can put it out again. And so everyone who's in this building is saying like, this is like a very different building, and it makes people very happy to be here, to know that like everything has a story.
Yeah, and there's a purpose. They feel like they're a part of it too. It's very important. Well, I think we have a question from one of our audience members. Alexa asked, how is the process of digitizing building materials? Can you explain that?
So it depends on like if you have an existing or a new building. For a new building, it's quite easy. So you plan normally in BIM. You can upload it on our platform, and then it's getting automatically matched to like all the objects in a BIM model are getting matched to like our database, and then basically you have a digital database. For an existing buildings, what we do, as said, we have a software with which we can go through a building, and then systematically we have a specific methodology in how we go there. We are taking pictures, information about all the different materials inside, and then you have a material inventory. So it's kind of manual work, but very much optimized with our software, which is now developed for more than 3 years.
Yeah, getting there. I'm sure in the future too, you'll come up with more solutions to make it even easier to document all of that.
Exactly, yeah.
Well, yeah, thank you for answering her question. And one last question I have. Oh, maybe we have another question here. Oh, no, we answered that one. Okay. And yeah, my last question for you would be, what's the impact in CO2 or resource reduction that you can do?
I mean, like a university, the RWH Aachen, they published like a report said like that with the reuse and recycling of materials, around 16% for 16% of global CO2 emissions can be saved. So that is the huge potential, like putting that relative, for example, to the aviation industry, which is responsible for 3% of all GHG emissions. We have 5 times the potential we can save when instead of when no one flies anymore. So I think that's a huge potential for everyone who's working on that market.
Yeah, very huge potential there. Thank you for sharing so much tonight, and looking forward to seeing what Concular does in the future. And yeah.
Thanks a lot for the invitation.
Thank you. Actually, we have one more. We'll bring Dominik back on. One last question. Just saw it. Sorry. Julia asks, how can you make sure that materials could be reused and not only cycled? Are they collected?
So I think the question is, so how do we make sure that like these materials are not downcycled? So what we basically do, because we give like materials kind of a passport, we're able to track them also. And so I mean, of course, like this is also a way we have to go even more like that, like if a material is going to manufacture, it will be documented on our passport. Okay, it's now getting, for example, refurbished. So we start even before, like when a manufacturer is creating a material, producing a material, they already get the Concular passport, a product passport, then it's going into buildings. So it's then again in our database, and then when it's getting like in this next cycle, it's also documented. And that I think is also the power of digitizing materials, having a database and also tracking then the materials, so that you always can very transparent show like what is really happening, and that there's no downcycling or greenwashing happening with that. And then you can also calculate, so how much GHG emissions, how much waste resources did I save with that? So very important topic. I think there's still a long way to go, but with I think our passports, we have a foundation for that.
Yeah, I think transparency is key. That's a great point.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you for the encore question. Now we'll let you go. Cool. And next up, we have our startup from Israel. And representing CRIATERRA tonight is Adital Ela, founder and CEO. CRIATERRA story. Good evening. A little bit of information on CRIATERRA. Their story starts in India, which I think this was something that was really interesting to me. Adital was there and she had a cup of chai, and the mug that it came in was able to be rethrown back into the ground and to become one with the earth again, which is a very interesting concept that inspired her to found CRIATERRA. And now they're re-engineering construction materials to be fully regenerative building products. So zero cement, zero waste is their motto, and they're creating more resources than they consume. So I think it's a very interesting concept and very excited to hear more about the product you're making. Welcome.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. And wonderful to be here tonight. Let me just share my presentation. So yes, CRIATERRA indeed started in one moment in India in the year 2000. I was a young industrial designer at the time, and a very frustrated one. I was studying at the late 90s, where the concept of heat beat treat was the way you made products. You took raw materials from the ground and just treated them to make what I call things that stop, things that completely disconnect to the biosphere. And I was just desperate to find a different way, to be honest. I had this kind of very, very natural aversion to this way of approaching production and approaching industry. So I decided to turn to places on Earth where things were still done in a different way. And when I saw this chai cup that is made by clay that is dried in the sun, you drink your tea, you throw it to the ground, and there it is, ground immediately there right away. So no collection system, no digitization of what material was inside. It's very, very clear to everybody. You drink and you bring it back. And for me, this was an aha moment of, this is how things should be. Yes, we need to have durable products, we need to have constructive products, we need to have products that we can rely on for the different use phases that are relevant. But in the end, they need to go back and need to be fully designed to integrate back into the biosphere, or fully designed to integrate back into the next cycle of products. If you could have both, even better. So CRIATERRA was started on this mission of how can we achieve fully constructive products without going beyond the boiling point of water. Because once you go beyond the boiling point of water, the chemical shift starts. The decarbonation, the release of the carbons that was deposited by nature in the mineral starch, and of course the investment of energy. So how can we go on this journey of achieving constructive strength products without all these very bad implications? And of course, addressing this in the building industry was a very interesting field to work in. I'm a second generation to a family of builders in Jerusalem. And at one point I started studying about the immense impacts of this industry, the impact of cement. And I understood that if we transform the 1600 degrees that cement is produced in to producing products in less than 100 degrees, we have the potential to save 80% of the CO2 emissions per product. And after 7 years of R&D, CRIATERRA can definitely say we managed to find the way. We are producing building products that are as strong as concrete, are 6 times more thermal, and yet are produced while saving 80% of the CO2 emissions and 90% of the energy. We started from wall tiles, like the ones you can see behind me, although it was very clear from the beginning that we can achieve constructive strength. Though we were a very small company at the time, and we understood that it's better to put our energy in creating products in a market in which innovation is driven by architects, in which the regulatory barriers are lower, and in which even a small company with a small production line could make an impact. And now CRIATERRA has over 100 installations. We have products installed in buildings for over 5 years, and we are on the way towards our first fully industrial line in Portugal. Now, based on solving the entire set of solutions to create a low carbon, kiln-free industry, we are also developing our next applications that use the constructive properties of the materials in the form of cladding in masonry blocks. And our vision is to create a fully insulative wall. So combining our thermal cladding and our highly thermal masonry blocks to achieve a wall that has less layers than the common one because of the high insulation, and also less layers of finishing because of the high finish of the products. So we save money both with the layers of insulation, the layers of finishing, and the heating and cooling of the building through the life of the building. And the materials are fully circular, both from a biological point of view and from a technological point of view. And this is just an example of how a room would feel inside with a CRIATERRA insulative wall comparing to cement, concrete brick wall. So CRIATERRA developed a technology made based on non-soluble minerals and vegetal fibers. We created an algorithm that allows us to adapt the technology to various geographies. So implementing the vision of local production for local use. We are creating a biogeo mixture that has zero cement, zero artificial ingredients, and we created the entire set of solutions to create a low carbon manufacturing. The heart of it is our mold that allows us to achieve constructive strength product in only a couple of minutes. To this, we add the approach of innovative, optimized design that guide us in every step to achieve the most effective products for the entire life cycle of the product. So these are some of our installation to date of the tiles. Our tiles are market ready, and they operate in a market of 4 billion square meters. So it's a very significant market that allows us to establish the company, establish revenues while building up our next product lines. So we see ourselves moving forward in collaborations, collaborating with leading players in the market, both in manufacturing and production. So we already have our first JV in the Netherlands towards producing and marketing the products in Europe, and we are in conversations and looking for additional partners in other parts of the world for the tiles, and looking for the relevant collaborators to bring the building block to the market. We see our targets around achieving 7 million square meters sold by 2027, and establishing ourselves as a leader in the area of reformulating products towards solving the carbon emission crisis. So in the last year, you can see quite a few companies that are exploring how to replace cement in different ways. CRIATERRA in the tile area is the only non-fired tile in the market today. And when it comes to replacing constructive products, we are well established with a rather short timeline to market, very low energy application that would be much more efficient to integrate instead of just finding more efficient ways to produce cement. So this is why we believe that it's very, very critical to invest, of course, in new ways to create energy and so on, but as critical to invest in producing products that require very low energy in the first place and emit very low amounts of carbon. A little bit about our team. The team is based on the R&D as the heart of the company. Our chief scientist comes from the area of ceramics and silicates specialization in the world of building materials, and the head of our R&D is a civil engineer that specializes in how to optimize buildings to minimize their environmental footprint. And of course, we have 18 people today that are bringing forward the different needs of a company. So CRIATERRA is looking for partners in the areas of funding and also in the area of collaborating towards production and marketing of our products. Because in the end, as your slogan says, I always say it takes a village to grow a child, and it takes a community to bring sustainable products to the market. We are highly committed to bring our products, and we are inviting any relevant partners to walk this way with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Adital. That was, yeah, very interesting too, to see the technology behind how you made this regenerative building block. Like, amazing what you can do with vegetable, I think you said vegetable fibers, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, very interesting. And yeah, if we have lots of investors and corporates in our network that would be very interested, I think, in reaching out to you. So as always, anybody in the audience that wants to get in touch with our startups, feel free to reach out to us or to the startups directly. We'll put you in contact. I have a first question for you. Actually, maybe we have one from our audience already. Laura asks, can you share more about the properties compared to cement?
Yes, with pleasure. So when it comes to the bending strength, we are parallel to cement. So 4 to 7 megapascals is the common property. When it comes to compressive strength, we are about 1.5 times better than concrete. When it comes to impact strength, that is very critical, especially in earthquakes. It's a very hot topic today. Cement is very, very brittle, and the CRIATERRA products withstand very, very strongly with impact. And when it comes to thermal insulation, we are 6 times better than concrete and 4 times better than ceramic.
Impressive figures. Yeah, everybody should switch at this point. Do you have any buildings already where you have examples of the blocks that you are already in the buildings that you around the world, or where is the majority?
Well, the blocks are still in R&D, so we have a first small wall that we are testing, but the blocks are in R&D only in the last few months. When it comes to the tiles, they are already installed in Israel, in Europe, in Asia, and coming soon, a first project in the US.
Very exciting. Looking forward to seeing that. And yeah, another question, would you be able to tell us more about the competition in the space? How many competitors do you have, or how many other companies are?
Yes. So when it comes to the tiles, CRIATERRA is, as I mentioned, the only non-fired tile in the market today. You can find products that are looking to be sustainable alternatives. Most of the technologies are around applying reused fillers from the ceramic industry, but still firing in the same way and producing all the emissions in the same way. You have some products from recycled glass, and you have factories that try to integrate renewable energy in the process. But when you go to a showroom of sustainable tiles, most of them would look just like any tile. And CRIATERRA also stands out with the kind of visual effect. When it comes to the blocks, so of course the most common blocks in the market are the concrete block and the AAC block. The AAC block holds about 40% of the market today, and we aim to penetrate the market with a block that is at least as thermal as the AAC, is cost competitive, and of course has all the environmental benefits. There are sustainable alternatives when it comes to blocks today, other than rammed earth, is hempcrete. So it's hemp together with replacement of cement that is fired in 600 degrees instead of 1600. It's better, but it's not enough.
No, not the answer. Yeah, we want the fully regenerative concept to work. Yeah, very interesting to hear the differences in materials too. The glass would be also an interesting, because I know sand is becoming a really popular, or how do we use the sand, right, in different building materials.
Sand is becoming, yes, a very precious resource, so that we need to give good attention where we apply it, of course.
And we have another question from the audience. Petra asks, what would be the highest height of a building that could be constructed with the blocks? Okay, so we aim to achieve load-bearing blocks, and load-bearing blocks can build up to a three-story high building without any concrete frame. The higher buildings still require, according to the standard, a concrete frame, regardless of the properties of the block. And within a concrete frame, we can go as high as it's needed. Sky is the limit then. Very cool. Thank you so much for joining us tonight and sharing your solution. Really excited to see buildings in the future made with the CRIATERRA building blocks and your tiles.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And next we have, last but not least, our startup from the Netherlands. So joining us from Manager is Sander Hoek, COO of Manager. And Manager is an online registry for materials and products, which can be used in real estate and infrastructure. So buildings and bridges, you name it. So Manager is on a mission to reduce waste and CO2 emissions one building at a time. So very excited to hear more from Sander about Manager's solution here. The stage is yours.
Thank you. If you allow a couple of seconds for me to switch my screen.
No worries.
Share my screen. If everything is in order, you should see my presentation now.
I can see it perfectly, thanks.
Okay, cool, thank you. So yes, thank you very much for the invitation and the opportunity to share something about Manager. Let me first make a very brief introduction of who I am. As you mentioned already, my name is Sander Hoek. I'm from the Netherlands. I have a background in business economics and information technology. I have been actively involved with Manager basically since the start. And I'm currently one of the global directors of the company with a primary focus on the day-to-day operations and the further development of our Manager platform. Oh, let me see. Yeah, because I just adjusted something in my presentation because some of the other presenters already did a detailed introduction on some context and numbers concerning the environmental impact of the construction sector in general. So if that's okay, I will skip those and directly jump into Madaster, who we are, what we do, and cover basically the 4 remaining topics, being our mission / vision, our proposition that is instrumental in achieving that mission, the ecosystem of which Madaster is a part, or at least we consider to be a part of, and the general setup of our organization. So to start off with our mission, we envision the world as a closed system in which there is no waste of resources. Vision embodies the infinite use of limited non-renewable resources and the creation of sustainable value, basically by taking full material responsibility. Obviously, we have a very strong focus on the built environment, and we provide our Madaster platform for registering and documenting products and materials used in assets, where I need to mention both in real estate and infrastructure. We started out with a strong focus on real estate, but recently, give or take a little bit more than a year ago, we also support everything we do for real estate for infrastructure assets, being roads, bridges, tunnels, etc. And by doing so, registering and giving materials an identity, we basically allow them to acquire and retain value. And in this way, we believe waste can be eliminated, and we can slowly, sadly, but surely transition towards a circular economy. As mentioned, basically the main thing that we provide is the Madaster platform. Primarily the means to realize our mission. When we first started, our platform originally was solely just a register for materials, meaning it was basically a repository where you could store all the information about all the materials being applied in an asset, nothing more and nothing less. But over the past 5 years, the platform itself has developed into what I would like to call a versatile one-stop solution, or instrument, if you will, that offers a wide variety of functionalities and insights, basically for all stakeholders in the construction sector. And by doing so, enabling them to make sustainable decisions, create value, and contribute to a healthier planet and successful entrepreneurship. I will not go into all the details of the platform, but to give you a very brief overview of some of the main components that are part of the Madaster platform. So first of all, we support full BIM integration, meaning people can upload their BIM files and the platform will do the rest by itself. If there is no BIM, we also accept information in the form of an Excel alternative. And in some cases, even when there is no way to do an inventory, there is no BIM, there is no Excel, there is basically nothing more than we know the asset, we know when it was built. We know something about the type, the floor, the gross floor surface, etc. We also offer asset material estimation, for which we have developed an intelligent prediction model, where you can provide a combination of, I think, 6 to 7 different parameters, and the system will give you a prediction or an estimation on the material amounts that will probably be in the asset, and combine that also with a calculation of the embodied carbon involved. We provide fully automated enrichment, meaning once you upload your BIM file, the platform itself will then connect this information to a user-selected combination of databases, up to anywhere in the region of, I think, currently 40+ different internal and external data sources. And with this automated enrichment, we will provide you with additional information on the environmental, circular, and financial characteristics of the registered asset. We have an API, meaning that you can connect your own software or third-party software if you give your consent to your portfolio, your object, your data, your account, whatever, and basically do everything by means of code, self-developed or third-party software. Obviously, that's basically also how we started. We can generate material passports. Recent release where we implemented something where the user can fully customize their own passport, determine which elements should be on there, in what format, etc. And it's also in compliance with several certifications and regulations like DGMB, like BREEAM, like whatever regulation is relevant in the country that we are active in. And lastly, we obviously deliver extensive dashboarding on the level of the object, the portfolio, a certain area, or your entire account on subjects like the applied materials and products, the environmental performance of your portfolio, circularity and detachability, and the financial valuation of the materials present in your asset. So with all this fancy stuff and the nice platform, how do we go about establishing our proposition and realizing our mission successfully? Madaster is originally a Dutch company and as such launched in the Netherlands just over 5 years ago, almost 6, with the support of a European Commission grant and a group of 30+ front-running companies. And to further give shape to our mission, we are trying obviously to create a circular ecosystem in as many countries as possible. As you can see in this slide, we are already doing so in 6 and aim to expand further this year to at least 2 new ones. So for this expansion, we first always look at a broad variety of companies active in the construction sector, preferably, but also companies that have a clear circular ambition and want to shape this together with us. So with this first group of companies, which we call Kennedys, we are jointly laying roughly over the period of a year the groundwork of the new ecosystem, and we shape the localized Madaster platform. And I say localized because the Madaster platform itself is for 85% generic, meaning international and applicable wherever in the world. But we also have to take into account that every country has, I don't know, certain localized standards. They have their own, could have their own currency, language, but also laws and regulations, standardizations for, I don't know, material passports, CO2 calculations, etc. So the platform itself allows for a specific, let's say, localized layer on top of the international solution. And this localized layer and also some specific regarding certain functionalities, that is something that we preferably do together with this group of front-running companies. And then after this initial, basically more purpose-driven phase, we move on to the more operational phase, where we then open up the fully localized platform for the broader public. To conclude, I would like to explain a little bit about our organizational setup. So, as I mentioned, Madaster is present in 6 countries, and by present I mean we actually have a local company in 6 countries, being the Netherlands, Switzerland, Germany, Belgium, Norway, and Austria. And in addition, we are currently actively involved in a wide variety or combination of different projects outside of these 6 countries, including in the United States, in Canada, in the Middle East, in Australia. We are all over the place, basically. From our setup, in Madaster, there are 3 main components. First of all, very important for us, we have the Madaster Foundation, which oversees the realization of our mission, meaning they always take a look at what the other entities within Madaster are doing and making sure that everything stays in line with the mission, being eliminating waste in the construction sector. And then there is something that we call Madaster Central, which forms the central operational part of Madaster. And that basically deals with the development of the Madaster platform and is also responsible for the international expansion of the company. And then finally, we have the currently 6 Madaster local companies. And these local entities are responsible for providing customer onboarding and support. Obviously, they are involved in local initiatives, which can be, I don't know, governmental started, or nice example, something in Germany with the DGMB concerning the format of a material passport is something that we were part of, or at least the local Madaster Germany entity was a part of. They also keep an eye on the laws and regulations. Luckily, more and more these laws and regulations are centrally, I mean, internationally organized, but there are still a lot of local deviations, and the local entities make sure that the local Madaster platform is always in line and compliant with those. And they are also responsible for identifying the needs of our customers and relaying those back to central in order for us to make sure that they become part of our platform roadmap. Very brief introduction of Madaster brings me to the end of my presentation. Thank you everybody for your attention. And if there are any questions, I will of course be happy to answer them.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sander, for sharing and giving us a little bit more background on Madaster. It's impressive what you guys have done in just 5-6 years, how wide you've expanded already.
Thank you.
So that brings us to our first audience question. They're asking, our anonymous attendee wants to know, is there a region or market where you would like to expand next, like one in particular maybe?
Yes, there are two in particular. Perhaps that was not very clear, but the first one is the United Kingdom, something that we are currently looking at, and the second one is Denmark. Basically both because there are a lot of companies showing interest there. So those two would be our main focus currently. Yes, within Europe. Yeah.
Interesting. Is there, I guess, a region that's a little bit harder to get into? If you've pinpointed Europe, I guess most of areas you're in.
I don't know. It's like I mentioned, we are currently doing projects all over the world. Obviously, the further away, the more difficult it becomes, already because of all the time differences. No, I don't think there is particularly anything that is specifically country-based that is more difficult. What we do find important is that if we look into a country, there should at least be some adaptation of BIM, because BIM just makes everything a lot easier. And the circular ambition obviously needs to be there. But apart from that, for us, it does not really matter what country we start in. No.
Interesting. Yeah. Excited to see how it goes in the UK and Denmark.
Yes, definitely.
And I have another question for you. As you mentioned, you have the foundation, and as Madaster is a green tech frontrunner, how easy is it to keep track of all these new insights and academic research, European policies? What is the trick to all of that, maybe?
The trick, there is no trick. It's just a matter of effort and time, I'm afraid. It's very difficult because there is so much happening. And partially it's internationally oriented. So within the European Union, there is the European Commission who is trying to standardize a lot of stuff. Sadly, all the individual countries have their own national ambitions and always deviate more or less from what is centrally set up. But there are a couple of things that we do always actively do to keep aligned with everything that's happening around us. First of all, we are, I think, at any point in time involved in anywhere between 3 and 5 different scientific research projects, mainly in the 6 countries that we are active in. Mostly governmental funded for the research institutes and the universities, and we are often asked to participate as a company who has practical experience and then share this experience, and in return we are basically directly connected to the research that's being done, and we benefit from the outcomes of this research, and where relevant we try to adopt those and implement them in the platform. Secondly, in every country that we are active in, we have a local product manager, and this product manager does onboarding with their customers, which is very important so that we always have a direct connection with our customers and know what's happening. But they are also the people who are participating in the local initiatives. So like the DGMB that I mentioned, or in the Netherlands, there was a BREEAM initiative or something called CB23, where they are thinking about circular guidelines. We always try to actively participate in these projects to stay aligned with what's happening there. And then finally, this is something more recent, as Madaster is growing and I guess getting traction. We have been invited to join the whole lifecycle carbon roadmap initiative by the European Commission. My colleague who was supposed to be here today, Pablo van der Bos, recently has become a member of this European Commission initiative. And they are with a wide variety of people and researchers working on this lifecycle karma roadmap coming from the European Commission. Very close to the fire. I don't know if that's an English expression or just a German or a Dutch one that I just translated, but
I guess it could be converted to English.
yeah. Oh, I hope so. So basically, yeah, I think that those are the main components that we put effort into to stay aligned and keep an eye on what's happening.
Never a boring moment, it sounds like. And
no, never.
Be curious too, how big is the Manager team now? How much have you expanded in 5-6 years?
Oh, I think we started out with, so we have a founders group, but the founders are not all actively participating in the day-to-day operations of the company. I think we started out with about 4 or 5 people. And if I take everybody into account now, I think we are somewhere in the region of 50. 50 people actively working for Madaster. Very
impressive considering all that you've done.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I don't think we
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for filling in last minute too.
No problem. No problem at all.
Thank you. And yep, that concludes our trend tour tonight. So thank you everybody for joining us. And if you want to get in touch with the startups, feel free to contact them directly or get in touch with us at CIRCULAZE and we'll put you in contact. And be sure to tune in to our next trend tour on April 17th at 5 p.m. CEST. So that will be on fashion and textile. So looking forward to seeing you there and have a good night, a good day, wherever you are in the world. Great. Bye.